Shadow. It's Shadow. Damn. My idol actually appeared in front of me. Isn't this too handsome? Those wings. That death smoke? This is the first time I've seen Shadow. It's a pity that it's in the game. Otherwise, I would definitely take a photo with my idol. It's not the first time I've seen him. I saw him when the Great Disaster Hades attacked the city before, but not as close as this time. Brother Shadow. I love you. Brother Shadow. Take care of your sister. Xinfeng just arrived and heard countless people around him exclaiming. Of course he was unmoved. He even wanted to hit someone when he heard the 4 words, Brother Shadow. Who the hell is your brother? And seeing a figure shrouded in the breath of death, the short-haired young man, Tian Jixing, suddenly appeared in front of him and fell into a state of confusion. What's going on? Shadow wants to buy potions from me. The young man, who was originally timid and a little decadent, immediately became excited. He spoke quickly, even stuttering a little, and asked, Brother Anan Ying, what kind of potion do you want? What kind of potion do you have? Give me some, Qianfeng said. By the way, how long is the shelf life of this potion? Tian Jixing quickly replied, no shelf life. It will be effective forever, but every month after it is placed, the effect will decrease by 10% of the current. Qianfeng nodded. Got it. Then give me 10 bottles. He didn't ask the price. The cost price of this potion is estimated to be 100 and 200 days of life per bottle. The price of the potion sold by Tian Jixing at the stall is 200-300 days of life, because there is a probability of failure when he refines potion, so he doesn't make much money from selling these potions. The main purpose is to increase his alchemy proficiency. It's a waste not to sell the refined things, just to make some money back. 10 bottles as well. The young Tian Jixing was a little nervous. I don't have so many on me now, I have to go back and make medicine again, which may take several hours. Qianfeng asked. How many types are there in total? Tian Jixing. A total of 12 types, similar special attack potions. There are for women, men, monsters, boss, and players. The two were talking about business here. The more than 10 female players next to them seemed to be unable to hold back. Most female players, seeing Qianfeng, dared not speak at all. But after all, there are still people who don't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is. Are you Shadow? A female player who was more than 5 meters tall suddenly stood up and pointed at Qianfeng. The potion he sells increases the damage to women, which is discrimination against women. If such a potion spreads to the market, won't we women be oppressed all the time? And what do you buy such a potion for? Are you plotting against us women? As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was dumbfounded. Some players around were extremely shocked when they saw the female player who spoke. Damn, is this woman so dizzy from fighting? How dare she talk to Shadow like that? It's so funny. Shadow wants to kill her, just like killing a pig. Does she need potions? That's right. Shadow obviously bought potions to fight the boss better. What does it have to do with her? This is too self-indulgent. Could it be that she said this on purpose to get close to Shadow? She didn't expect Shadow to say, Woman, you caught my attention. Come on. With his square figure? 5 meters and 150 meters. Even I don't like him. How can he flirt with Shadow? Even Qianfeng was a little speechless. It seems that the environment in Daxia was too good before, so some people didn't know the cruelty of survival. Qianfeng didn't even look back, and raised his hand to attack with a knife. 357. 2W weak point attack. Without any sign, the female player's health bar instantly hit the bottom. Even when Qianfeng raised his hand and slashed, he only passed over the opponent's head. His extremely high weak hit correction directly hit the opponent's head, although there was no invisibility. But Qianfeng's basic attack was more than 200, enjoying 3x weak attack, 1x nightmare state damage increase, 5x additional thunder element damage, plus 4x 7 upper level affixes damage increase. Directly hit millions of damage when Qianfeng's slash was made. The field became silent. 3 seconds later, suddenly a female player screamed. The little lady didn't revive. Shadow, where did you send her? You are committing murder. The female player who was just killed by Qianfeng was codenamed Little Lady 109 and sent her directly to the place of judgment because she failed to revive. The female players in her guild immediately realized it. She was sent away directly by the Shadow. Just like some of the missing people before her, being killed in the game is equivalent to being dead. Intentional homicide. Qianfeng, who hadn't heard this word for a long time, looked even more strange. I agree that it was intentional killing, but I'm not sure if it was a human. The IQ of humans is not that low. As soon as this was said, the surrounding players burst into laughter. Oh my god. I didn't expect Shadow to be so good at talking. If you can talk, please talk more. We love to hear it. Shadow is awesome. He took the punch. Shadow. My mouth. Love you. I am really laughing like crazy. That fat girl calls herself a little lady. She is so sharp-tongued. Does she look like a lady at all? How can it be so cool? The women in this guild fight all day long. A few days ago, they even robbed a boss from our guild, saying that we should give in to the women. This time they hit a wall. That's right. What's the matter with women? Or not? Shadow doesn't even treat them as human beings. Just amid the laughter of the people around, Qianfeng raised his hand and slashed again. 419. He weak point attack. A flash of white light passed by, and the female player who screamed and accused him fell to the ground. then disappeared, and was also sent to the place of judgment. Then Qin Feng turned around and looked at the women. Does anyone have any objections? He wore a white lifeless mask, with black wings spread out behind him, and his eyes were cold and frightening. The remaining dozen or so female players looked ugly, and immediately waved their hands, shaking their heads and retreating with dark faces. No, really. I feel that you are very unconvinced. Qin Feng glanced at the other party, paused for half a second, and suddenly raised his hand to shoot a shadow blade. The shadow blade hit one of the female players, and then quickly and continuously shot around. In just a moment, all the 12 female players were killed and sent to the place of judgment. There is no way. Qin Feng wanted to let them go, but realized that this kind of people are like dog skin plasters. As long as they are not completely solved, they will always be disgusting behind them, since they have taken action. It is better to solve them all at once. It's quiet now. Let's continue chatting. Qin Feng turned around and said to the young Tian Jixing as if nothing had happened. The young Tian Jixing, who saw this scene, as well as everyone around him, were all in a state of shock and fear. The shock was that Shadow was too straightforward and decisive. The fear was that, for Shadow, killing people was just like others killing chickens. The key is, no one can do anything to Shadow. In the Daxia game area, because the official maintained order, people did not have a deep understanding of the law of the jungle. But today, Qin Feng taught the surrounding players a good lesson. In this era, don't be too arrogant if you don't have the strength. Don't expect to use morality to kidnap others, because the other party may not have morality. And when the 14 female players of the Roseflower Guild were killed by Qin Feng and failed to revive, the other players in the guild were all dumbfounded. Because when Little Lady 109 was killed, someone spoke up in the guild channel, and soon everyone was gone. And then he failed to revive, so everyone was angry. The leader of the Roseflower Guild, Confident Rose, even went straight to the official people of the Magic City and asked arrogantly, our people were killed by Shadow and failed to revive. Does Shadow not need to be punished for killing people? For the convenience of management in the Magic City, all guild leaders with more than 10 members have added official personnel as friends. And they are all personnel who are specifically responsible for this aspect and have rich experience in dealing with this aspect. This is the case with the leader of the Roseflower Guild, Confident Rose. And because the leader is a woman, the official arranged for her to contact female players. When she complained to the official girl in her friend list, the other party did not respond immediately, probably to understand the situation. Soon, after nearly 2.5 minutes, the official girl replied with a voice message. I have said it many times. We will not participate in handling the death or loss of our own personnel in the game due to provoking trouble. Can your guild be quiet? Confident Rose immediately replied, I know, but this time it's different. Shadow killing people. But it really kills people. Official girl sneered. Then you dare to provoke him. Even children know not to kick when you encounter an iron plate. How grown up are you? Even worse than children. Confident Rose naturally disagreed, but couldn't say anything to refute. Thinking for a long time, she gritted her teeth and said, they are also to protect the interests of all women. Official girl was speechless. Why did the potion provoke you? Obviously, she had already understood the situation clearly through official information channels in a short time just now. Confident Rose immediately retorted, the potion increases the damage to women, which is obviously discriminatory against women. You are also a female player. Don't you feel offended? The official girl was almost dumbfounded. What kind of brain circuit is this person? So outrageous. But fortunately, she is professional in dealing with this kind of problem, and it is not the first or second time to deal with this guild. So the official girl replied coldly, who set the potion? Was it set by Shadow, or was it set by Tian Jixing? You are so capable. Why don't you go and give suggestions to the designer of the godforsaken game? Instead of killing monsters and becoming stronger every day, you just know how to make trouble everywhere. And when something happens and you feel wronged, you come to the official, your babysitter. You can hear it from these words. This Rose Guild has often made trouble before. They dare to be arrogant in front of Qin Feng. It is completely imaginable how arrogant they are in front of others. Are they really running for women's rights? It's hard to say. Most of the time, they are just doing it for their own interest, using the protection of women's rights as an excuse. They stir up trouble everywhere. Many people just give some lifespans to avoid bad luck. After tasting the sweetness, they stir up trouble everywhere. Just like Tian Jixing just now, if Tian Jixing is willing to give them some lifespan, they may let him go. But when they see that he is not a good person, they will take advantage of him and destroy a bunch of magic potions. And this is not the first time they have done this. It's completely a familiar routine. Confident Rose is a little less confident after being said by the other party. She didn't dare to argue with the other party anymore, but just said stubbornly, you don't care about Shadow killing people, right? Official girl, aren't they still alive? Tell me, are they dead? Confident Rose, not dead yet, but they will die in 2 days. Official girl, then you just wait and watch them die. You don't want to find a way to save the things you caused yourself and come to the official. Do you want us to apologize for you? Confident Rose was dissatisfied. Apologize. What did we do wrong to apologize to Shadow? And what if we go to apologize and get killed by him again? Official girl. As far as I know, Shadow has never killed a normal person. So if you behave normally when you apologize, will Shadow kill you? This sentence is a critical hit. It made Confident Rose almost vomit blood. Official girl continued. We are all adults, responsible for our own words and deeds. Find a way to solve the things you caused yourself. After saying this, official girl secretly praised Cool. The female players of the Rose Guild are used to being domineering. They don't have much strength, but many players are afraid of them. It's because they are protected by official laws. If there were no official laws, the guild has been turned over countless times. How could it be so harmonious? Confidence Rose was completely in a struggle. She knew that the only way to save her men now was to apologize to the Shadow. But asking her to apologize, how is it possible? I will never bow my head to a man. Little Wildcat, are you near the Tower of Divine Power? Go find Shadow and apologize to him. And take Xiaoshu first. Rescue the girls first. Remember to be nice. Confident Rose sighed. She felt that the world was full of oppression against women. She was so angry. At this time, Qin Feng had already negotiated the deal with Tian Jixing, a total of 50 years of life, a total of 12 kinds of magic potions, a total of 120 bottles. This is almost the cost price. Tian Jixing was very grateful to him and repeatedly assured that it would be completed as soon as possible. After both parties added friends, the gate of the Tower of Divine Power opened. Qin Feng waved to the people around him. Let's go. Then he turned and entered the Tower of Divine Power. He was a little emotional. The Abyss Nine in the previous life were forces that he had to treat with caution. But now, in Tian Jixing's eyes, he alone was an insurmountable mountain. Looking at Tian Jixing's somewhat immature face and his admiring eyes, Qin Feng felt a little weird. It was impossible to connect this young man with the Abyss Nine, who were dressed in red robes and looked bloody and terrifying in the previous life. In this era, strength determines character. When the strength is not strong enough, the nature of many people is suppressed. But as long as the strength is strong enough, for example, Huang Ziqing and the corpse collector Gao Xiaoyi, their natures are exposed. Of course, it's not necessarily their nature. It's also because after they have strength, the environment they are in makes their personalities gradually change. In short, Qin Feng entered the Tower of Divine Power. He planned to send the Moon Queen Virginie to the Land of Judgment first. When Qin Feng said the 3 words disband, the players around the Tower of Divine Power, whether they were queuing or looking for a team, were all confused. Disband? What do you mean? Wait, why did Shadow come here? I heard that he killed the NPC of the Tower of Divine Power in Zhenghai Ruins. Is he going to kill my mother? Fuck. No. I haven't gotten the Book of Divine Power for free yet. If it were in other places, Qin Feng's behavior would probably attract a lot of criticism from players. After all, not being able to get the Book of Divine Grant for free has indeed caused many middle and lower level players to spend a lot of money for no reason. But this is the Magic City. Many of the players present have personally experienced the attack of the Great Disaster Hades Halls. Therefore, they know very well how important Shadow is to them, to the entire Magic City, and even to the entire Daxia. When Qin Feng entered the Tower of Divine Authority, although the players outside were talking about it, basically no one blamed Qin Feng. They were just discussing why Shadow wanted to kill the NPC of the Tower of Divine Authority. I heard that the 6-fingered wizard in the Zhenghai Ruins is disgusting. He set the challenge difficulty for female players very high, and the cost of buying the Divine Book is also higher. In the end, he was killed by Shadow. I am from Zhenghai City. I deliberately teleported to the Magic City to buy the Divine Book. I didn't expect that I still missed it, Tat. Speaking of which, the NPC is really discriminating against women. The Roseflower Guild is so powerful. Why don't they take care of that NPC? It's so funny. I told them before that the situation of the Zhenghai Divine Power Tower, do they dare to take care of it? Just a bunch of bullies. It's better to rely on my Ah Huang than on them. This kind of guy can only be dealt with by Shadow. That's right. To be honest, we really feel safe with Shadow. At the same time, the Wildcat of the Roseflower Guild, a petite woman in a tight leather jacket, was rushing to the Tower of Theocracy to apologize to Shadow according to the words of the President, Confident Rose. Her profession was an assassin, and she was very agile. She rode a black skeleton horse and moved quickly on this scorched earth. Along the way, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Her long flowing hair and delicately made up face all showed her beauty. Shadow. Alas, they are so stupid that they dared to offend Shadow. This punch is hitting themselves in the face. There is really no way. Compared with other female players in the Roseflower Guild, Wildcat is undoubtedly much more rational, because she knows very well what she wants. In the eyes of the Wildcat, everyone in the guild, including the President Confident Rose, is a fool, and the Wildcat belongs to the management of this guild, and relies entirely on this guild to make profits. Although it took some time to put on makeup, I'm perfect now. I should be able to leave a good impression on Shadow. The little Wildcat rode the skeleton horse forward while smiling, showing a natural and beautiful smile. Before the godforsaken game came, she was a well-known beauty blogger, and another avatar was a well-known opposing rhythm leader in a forum. Now she is the highest force representative of the Rose Guild. Why can other people in the Rose Guild go around making trouble? It's because there is a little Wildcat behind them. Just in terms of DPS, the little Wildcat's DPS has reached more than 15,000. This is already half of the DPS of Black Plum. Big Plum and Snowy Day when Qinfeng killed the epic giant octopus. And her profession is an assassin. With a set of invisibility, basically no one can withstand it except the tank profession at this stage. It is precisely because of her military deterrence. Only the Rose Guild could cause such a big trouble. When ordinary guild players encounter people from this guild causing trouble, they basically give them some life and let it go, so as not to offend the Wildcat. Of course, the Wildcat is very smart. She will not come to the front. This guild was established by her and Confident Rose. She directly let Confident Rose be the president, and she hid behind the scenes, take the benefits together, and let Confident Rose come forward if there is anything. No bad luck will fall on her head. The opportunity has finally come. The Wildcat puffed up her chest. She was very confident in her figure and appearance. What's more, I have seen the ghost from the Shadow Guild before. My style is a bit similar to hers, and I am much more mature than that little ghost. I must take advantage of Shadow's apology this time to win his favor. She is also confident in her skills in flirting with men. After all, before the godforsaken game came, she had had many boyfriends, most of whom were second generation rich, and there were countless licking G behind her. No matter how strong Shadow is, isn't he still a man? She smiled contemptuously. However, just when she got up and set off for the Tower of Divine Power, she had no idea. Qinfeng was going to deal with Virginie's affairs and leave the Tower of Divine Power. How fast? Even if she got the news and rushed over immediately, she might not be able to make it in time. Why put on makeup before leaving? Tower of Divine Power. Qinfeng walked into the tower, and what came into view was the clone of Queen of the Moon, Virginie. It was a noble lady bathed in the holy moonlight, wearing a moon-white robe with an illusory figure and a water-like moonlight ripple around her right hand. When Qinfeng stepped in, the queen's clone issued him the task of finding her children as usual. But Qinfeng didn't care. Kill the clone first, and let the real one come out. Qinfeng raised his hand and slashed, killed it instantly. Even if it was just a normal attack, there was still no invisibility. But the damage amplification from many aspects still made this knife explode with millions of damage. A gold level clone boss to Qinfeng is no different from a small monster. For most players nowadays, such a boss needs to be killed by two people with all their strength. When the clone of the Moon Queen was killed instantly, the figure of the noble lady in the moon-white robe gradually turned into moonlight and dissipated. Then, in a burst of moonlight, a noble lady in the moon-white robe fell from the sky and came to Qinfeng. There was no emotion in her eyes when she looked at Qinfeng. You have passed the challenge. Please choose to buy the divine book you need, without a man and a woman. If they enter this divine power tower, Virginie will not have much reaction. Just like a normal NPC, Qinfeng didn't care. He didn't put away the dagger in his hand, but while playing with the dagger, he took 2 steps back and leaned against the wall. I'm not here to buy the Book of Divine Gift. Then, an obscure, ancient and sacred ancient divine language came from under his white mask. When I come, you will be killed, or redeemed. The words of the ancient god Qinfeng echoed in the tower. When this voice came out, I saw that the originally emotionless Queen Yue Kuei's eyes showed disbelief. She was able to become an NPC, so her strength was naturally not weak. In the civilization where she originally lived, she was the most powerful. This level of power, just like Qinfeng in the previous life, may not be able to understand all the ancient divine language, but at least they can hear that it is the ancient divine language. The most important thing is, when Virginie heard Qinfeng's ancient divine language, she directly recalled the time when she was exiled here. In the darkness, some ancient divine language kept ringing in her mind. Obviously, the ancient divine language is the language used by the ancient gods to communicate in ancient times. Human players who can speak this language can never be normal players. For a moment, Virginie's moon-white eyes carefully looked at Qinfeng. Child, I remember you. She smiled gently. You are the first child to come to see me. You are very powerful. But where is your sister? Qinfeng did not expect that this NPC still remembered him. But, recalling the NPC memories he had checked before, Qinfeng knew that Virginie should also be in her memory. After being sent to Blue Star to be an NPC, she experienced endless darkness. And then the first people she met were Qinfeng and Guiling. Obviously, the sister Virginie mentioned was Guiling. At that time, Qinfeng brought Guiling over and called her mom, and let Guiling take 9 divine books for free. But Qinfeng did not answer her question. Instead, he looked into her eyes and said word by word, I am not your child. Your child is dead. These words are the key. In the previous life, there were players who were killed by Virginie. It was because he said in front of her that her child was dead that caused this NPC to go berserk. Qinfeng was going to rescue this NPC. First, try to see what would happen if he released the person from the Judgment Land. Second, let the real Evil Spirit Academy have a powerful existence to protect it. But before that, Qinfeng must make sure that this NPC is not a threat to him or the Skydome Guild of the Evil Spirit Academy. Under normal circumstances, she treats all Blue Star players as her children and is too good to us. But if she is angered, it will be extremely terrible. Since he was going to take her back, he naturally had to be familiar with every aspect of her, whether it was gentle or violent. Just when Qinfeng said this, Virginie's face suddenly became dark. Her eyes turned a little red, and the hostility in her eyes suddenly surged. Nonsense. No. Alan, Anna, they are not dead. Who are you to curse my child? You, damn it. accompanied by a scream. Countless moonlight and the whole venue formed white moonblades, which gathered into a moonblade storm and swept towards the place where Qin Feng was. And in this stormy moonblade storm, each moonblade carried more than 100 points of whispering affixes. After hundreds of moonblades, her whispering scale stacking ability is no weaker than Qin Feng when she faced the great disaster Haiti. The difference is that Qin Feng at that time stacked the nightmare scale. Facing such a terrifying whispering storm, Qin Feng seemed to be beaten by the surging waves. But the eyes under the white mask were extremely peaceful. I said, "You will die." Another ancient god language. This is Qin Feng increasing her psychological pressure and making her more aware that she is not his opponent. It's a threat. Kill her first. And kill her with a crushing attitude. Then, use her memory to further induce her. The sky is full of white moonblades, and the storm is coming, and Qin Feng's figure disappeared from the spot at that moment. Even Qin Feng couldn't bear such a violent burst of whispering energy head on. This woman is too crazy. She used a big move right at the beginning. Fortunately, Han Feng has Shadowfold. Disappeared from the spot in an instant. Avoid all those hundreds of white moonblades. Blend into the darkness. Shadow of killing. Finally, 1,000 blades break. At this moment, Qin Feng adjusted all the upper level affixes to instant death affixes, making his instant death affixes exceed 50 points. His speed is too fast. Virginie reacted, but it was impossible to completely avoid it. What's more, Qin Feng can now release skills while moving. So, as soon as she moved, Lan Feng and Shadow Clone followed. Even though Virginie was carried into the sky by the moonlight, Qin Feng and Shadow Clone swung dozens of knives in an instant, while spreading their death wings and following closely. Invisible knife light bloomed on Virginie. The blood bar above her head did not move much, because she had a kind of order. Her health value would only be damaged once at most within 25 seconds. But her instant death meter was rapidly rising until it was full. You killed Queen of the Moon, Virginie Ananera, accompanied by the system prompt. The figure of the queen in the moon-white robe disappeared in this tower of divine power. With only 10 points of divinity, she was put in the land of judgment. All this seemed easy. But even Qin Feng was sweating, because he didn't expect that Virginie's resistance to the instant death affix was so high. The killing executioner is immune to instant death, so he could only rely on damage to kill her. Is the instant death resistance of this moon queen so high? Qin Feng was a little shocked. He just cooperated with 5 shadow clones, and each shadow clone swung hundreds of swords. He saw it clearly. Every time the sword light of the 1,000 blades breaking strike hit the moon queen, the instant death affix on her head increased by less than 3%. If Qin Feng hadn't added 5 shadow clones and swung a total of 4 or 500 swords in an instant, he really couldn't kill her in one wave. Fortunately, it was killed in 1 second. Otherwise, if it wasn't killed in 1 second, the deterrent effect on her wouldn't be so great. Qin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Feng didn't find this situation strange. Either her upper threshold is very high, or her upper affix scale accumulation speed is slowed down many times. Similar to Qin Feng's Blessing of the Thunder Fairy, like dodge, the upper affix scale accumulation speed. This attribute is superimposed and multiplied. If you bring more, the superposition multiple will be very high. We will know the specific situation after checking her memory, regardless of whether to release her. The trial must be judged and the memory must be checked. Otherwise, Qin Feng can't rest assured. When he fell from midair to the ground, seeing the 9 divine books falling on the ground, of course he was too lazy to pick them up. So he directly chatted with the young man, Tian Jixing, and asked him to come in. Give him the divine book. If he has it, then it's okay to collect some lifespan and sell it to others. After all this is done, Qin Feng took out the teleportation stone and teleported directly home. At this time, the Wildcat of the Rose Guild was on his way with great expectations. He had no idea that Qin Feng had already left the Tower of Divine Power. And just as Qin Feng was about to return to the Land of Judgment to check Virginie's memory, realistic Blue Star, Devil City, East Coast. A complex of buildings covered by a defensive barrier stood on the coast, including the Evil Spirit Academy and 2 official hideouts. On the coastline, there was an entire fleet patrolling back and forth, but no one noticed that there was a stealth team in the deep sea. This team came from North America. This is Viper. The location of Shadow has been confirmed. The legendary boss cube is ready. Wait for the Great Cold Country to start the action, and it can be deployed at any time. This stealth team from North America has a total of 6 people. They are all from Florida, and their stealth levels have reached level 7 to Maya. With the group stealth level increase, they all exceed the stealth level of level 10. It can be said that everyone has special skills. Since receiving the order to hide in this sea area, a whole day has passed. There is a scanner brother who has seen Shadow appear under the beach not far away several times in succession. I didn't expect this place to be a double hiding place. Find an Evil Spirit Academy built on the ground to attract attention. But we found it after all. The 6 of them gathered together and hid in the deep sea. Suddenly, a lanterned fish monster with a length of more than 3 meters swam over from the sea not far away. Originally, the 6 of them didn't care. After all, they were in stealth mode, and ordinary monsters couldn't find them. But as the lanternfish approached, they found that something seemed wrong. Although the lanternfish didn't see them, It swam to their side and started to excrete next to them. The 6 Florida strongmen hid in the deep sea and didn't dare to move, because they had to maintain such a high stealth level. They had to stay where they were, otherwise the stealth level would drop by 3-4 levels, in the sea so close to Daxia. Once the stealth level drops, it is extremely dangerous. So, the 6 of them were surrounded by lanternfish excrement. Oh, shit. Yes, it's really shit. Oh my god. They want to get into my mask? It's okay, as long as we can kill the shadow. While these 6 people were watching in the deep sea, in the Florida base camp, there were a bunch of strongmen preparing Florida ruins on the sea, thousands of kilometers away in the east. A black cube was floating. There are several electronic eyes on each face of the Rubik's Cube, and it is impossible to tell which side is the front and which side is the back. Around the Rubik's Cube, there are many Florida bosses communicating with the Rubik's Cube. From the Rubik's Cube, a series of mechanical voices surrounded by electric currents are heard, and it is impossible to distinguish between men and women. Humans, are you not ready yet? I'm bored to death. You weak chickens. On the top of the Rubik's Cube, there is a line of fonts. Mechanical Rubik's Cube, Helga Vasinger, Elf30. Grade, Legend. If translated into Daxia characters, that is Mechanical Rubik's Cube, Helga Vasinger. This is the level 30 legendary boss that North America is preparing to drop on the coast of Daxia Magic City, because this boss floats above the sea. The players in Florida who are keen on exploration have discovered its traces very early. But naturally, no one dared to touch this guy. But how could it be safe and sound since we have already reached the range of this mechanical cube? All the players who saw this mechanical cube were played by it. The character of this mechanical cube is a bit eccentric. When it encounters a player approaching, it will not kill him directly, but let the player play a game with it. As long as the player can hurt it, even if it only hits 1 point of damage, it will let the player leave. So in order to survive, the players attacked it frantically. But in the end, no one can cause even 1 point of damage to it. Once the battle starts, a long string of numbers will appear above its head, but no one knows what that string of numbers means. It must be the mechanism of this boss. But why can't it be hurt? What does that string of numbers mean? The Florida players, even if they showed their magical powers, could not hurt this boss at all. Instead, hundreds of players died in its hands, but later, the Florida officials found a problem. This boss seemed to be bored, so he played this game with them. So he suddenly had an idea. In the Far East, there is a very powerful human. His name is Shadow. He has killed the legendary boss twice. If you meet it, you are definitely not its opponent. The official strongman of Florida began to communicate with the mechanical Rubik's Cube. That is the beginning of this plan. In fact, although the communication in the Silent Era is not convenient, after all, Qinfeng has killed 2 legendary bosses, which is a system prompt heard by all players around the world. Therefore, they all know how terrifying the combat power of Shadow is now. However, the mechanism of each legendary boss is different. Moreover, once the legendary boss is sent to reality, it will be different from fighting in the game. There is no room for error in fighting in reality. Once you die, you are really dead. Therefore, the official strongman of Florida plans to put this mechanical cube on the east coast of Daxia Magic City to deal with Daxia and Shadow. Our Florida boss has unique skills. Even if you are Shadow, you may not be able to kill the cube. Arrogant Shadow. Arrogant cube. In the eyes of Florida players, they are very curious about who will win. Of course, to put the mechanical cube, the most important thing is to have a good chat with the cube. The key is that this mechanical cube seems to have been bored and wants to play. After the Florida officials said that Shadow killed 2 legendary bosses alone, the mechanical cube really became very interested. Good. Garrett, the human called Shadow, who can kill 2 legendary bosses alone, has aroused my interest. The mechanical voice wrapped with electric current was transmitted to the surroundings without emotion. The strong men of the Florida official finally breathed a sigh of relief when they found that this boss was really interesting. Then the most important thing is to release the boss to Daxia and hide themselves, as long as they hide well. Daxia will not know that it was their trick, and they can strategize behind the scenes. Of course, before the actual release, the attention of the Daxia official must be attracted first. That depends on North America's loyal subordinates, the Great Cold Kingdom. Just as the offensive plan was being carried out in full swing, Qinfeng returned to the place of judgment again. If he knew what North America was thinking, his face would definitely become very strange. As one of the 5 legendary bosses in the original Blue Star game world, the mechanical cube caused great trouble to players in North America and Florida in the previous life. But fortunately, this boss was not very murderous, and the losses were not very large. Later, the Florida government sent some acrobatic players to amuse the mechanical cube. It was not until the 6th year of the godforsaken game that it was defeated. The timeline of its capture was even later than the time when Tianzhu dealt with the Keshem magic mirror. It can be seen that its mechanism is indeed very difficult, but it just happened. Qinfeng knew the specific mechanism of this boss very well. Have to say that the mechanism of the mechanical Rubik's Cube is really difficult. Especially for the current players, it is impossible to defeat it, even if you want to cause 1 point of damage to it. It is impossible unless you are lucky. In the previous life, Qinfeng's combat power in the middle and late stages is top level, and he has participated in many strategies for legendary and mythical bosses in Daxia. The mechanical Rubik's Cube is a must-learn boss. Although he has never fought this boss in the previous life, he is very familiar with the mechanism. The number above the boss's head is the lowest 4-digit 2431, and the highest is the 6-digit 716539. The number is a combination of three 2-digit numbers multiplied together. And what can three 2-digit numbers represent? It can be used as a spatial coordinate. In other words, the number above the boss's head changes every 5 seconds, and the player needs to quickly obtain the three coordinate numbers of the spatial coordinate system based on the number. Then take the boss as the center of the coordinate system and go to the position represented by the coordinate. Only at this position can the boss be successfully damaged. Moreover, the spatial coordinates composed of three numbers can have 6 combinations. That is, every time the numbers change, there will be 6 positions around the boss that can cause damage to the boss, just enough for a 6-person team to participate in the attack at all positions outside the specific position. Attacking the boss is invalid. No damage, and the superordinate affix is also invalid. In the previous life, originally, people didn't understand this mechanism at all, and everyone was confused. Later, an elementary school math teacher in Florida found out the pattern. Now, Florida is in a situation where it doesn't know the mechanism of this bot. This also makes the official strongman of Florida think that this boss should be able to restrain the shadow. Different legendary bosses have different mechanisms. It is impossible to cause damage to it, and even Shadow may not be able to kill it, even if Shadow chooses to escape. It is also very good for us to release the boss to Daxia. Now let Master Cube go through the crack and go to reality first. The Land of Judgment. Xinfeng, wearing black leather armor, with death wings fluttering behind him, stood on the white jade platform. Ashasai, wearing a white robe, stood quietly like his servant at his side. A little behind him, with a gentle smile in her light golden eyes. 14 female players, including Little Lady 189, were teleported here after death, but when they came to the Land of Judgment, they all looked confused and looked around. Xinfeng glanced at these female players. In fact, in a broad sense, these female players do not seem to be guilty of death, and at the very least they will not be judged. They are too weak. There is almost no benefit in judging them, and Xinfeng feels that it is a waste of divinity. But if they are convicted of blasphemy, there may be some gains. This is also one of Xinfeng's considerations. Should he do something in the future? Let people scold him first, and then judge them. Can it increase some benefits? Judgment. Xinfeng was too lazy to check their memories. For fear of being irritated, with a wave of his hand, he directly judged. A total of 140 points of divinity were consumed, which was the minimum consumption of the trial target. In the end, each person gave him 8 of the divinity limit. And the total of 14 people was less than 1 point of divinity limit. This cost 400 years of life. Xinfeng sighed. Although there was indeed a blasphemy crime, most of these 14 people went into the oil pan to enjoy after being judged, but their strength was too weak. It seems that developing too fast has its disadvantages. Others can't keep up with my pace at all. I can't find anyone who can fight me. Xinfeng shook his head. Then, he looked at the edge of the white jade maze. A noble lady wearing a moon white robe, that is, the Moon Queen Virginie. The divinity required to judge her is 1355 points. In that case, let's judge. Life is like worthless in Xinfeng's hand. It quickly flows into the Blade of Judgment and transforms into divinity. Then it flows into the Land of Judgment. The authority of judgment. Start again. After arriving at the Land of Judgment, Virginie looked a little dazed, as if she didn't expect that she was not dead at all. After all, she has experienced too many things. Compared to the emotions of ordinary people coming to the Land of Judgment, the doubts in her mind are heavier. While she was observing the surroundings, Xinfeng directly started to check her memory. Virginie was born in a place called Jiaoyang Civilization and was born into a noble family. This civilization was in an era similar to the Middle Ages. As the daughter of a great noble, Virginie had lived a life of luxury since childhood. However, Xinfeng discovered 2 things from her memory. First, the queen seemed to be colorblind. From her memory, the colors of the whole world were black and white. Second, the mathematics of this civilization was a bit strange, using hexadecimal. When Xinfeng checked the memories of Vikri and Diyarbad before, he did not encounter much obstacles in the process of receiving and understanding their culture. But this time, Xinfeng felt awkward. Their basic numbers are not 10, but 16. So when checking Virginie's memory, Xinfeng had to convert every time he encountered a number problem in his mind. It was quite troublesome. For example, the 549 of their civilization is not the 549 on Blue Star, which should be converted to 1353. The 666 of their civilization is converted to 26214. And this point, also, after the godforsaken game came, all the values of character attributes, equipment, and skills of this civilization were also in hexadecimal. Of course, this is only the case from the perspective of the players of their civilization. Now Xinfeng is checking Virginie's memory, so it feels awkward. In fact, if Virginie gives Xinfeng her equipment, then the values Xinfeng sees will also be expressed in decimal. This is the adaptability of the godforsaken game for different civilizations, whether it is text or numbers. It is understandable and comprehensible to the players of the civilization. In this awkward process, Virginie and Xinfeng's perspective grew up day by day, then got married, and gave birth to a pair of children named Alan and Anna. When the brother and sister were 10 years old, their lives turned around. A large-scale slave riot that shocked the whole country occurred in the noble manor where Virginie was. The noble family she belonged to was destroyed in that battle, and almost all the family members died. Under the cover of her husband's sacrifice, only Virginie, Alan, and Anna fled desperately and hid in a forest temporarily. Under this circumstance, before Virginie could think about how to survive in the future, the godforsaken game has arrived. She is a genius. When she took her son and daughter and fled to the wild forest, Virginie, who was tired and fell asleep, found herself in a scorched earth town. She ignorantly chose a random profession. She got the only hidden profession, Moonlight Mage. Her talent is emerald level talent, multiple casting, 100% double casting, and 50% probability of triple casting, 20% probability of quadruple casting. With excellent talent and professional bonus, her initial combat power is very strong. So she left the town and quickly killed a lot of creepers, gaining experience and lifespan. Just when she was in doubt, she saw several orc slaves also walked out of the town. They were slaves who were born in the same area in the same town as her. One of them was the orc leader who killed her husband. In fact, in Qin Feng's eyes, these slaves were not orcs at all, but rough, brown-skinned savages with burly bodies and ugly faces. But if they were really called orc, Wang Feng would not object. After all, they did look alike, and some slaves even had fangs sticking out of their mouths. Seeing those slaves, Virginie subconsciously ran away, and the other party chased her directly. As a result, Virginie turned back and used a moonlight blade to cut off the arm of a slave. She gradually became familiar with her own power. What panicked her was that she couldn't find her child. While running around in the mountains and forests, she thought about what situation she was facing now. Finally received a system prompt. You can log off after reaching level 3. In such an environment, Virginie grew up quickly. At first she thought everything in her dreams was illusory, but when Virginie reached level 10, when she tried to extract everything in the game into reality, she finally realized that this game was real. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Virginie is getting stronger and stronger. Alan and Anna also gradually grew up, looking forward to turning 18, entering the godforsaken game to become stronger, and avenge their father and family. After the godforsaken game came, the overall environment of Jiaoyang civilization changed greatly, because everyone is equal. The orc slaves who can also enter the game united to establish a regime on the southern continent. The overall strength of the regime is not weak, but due to chaotic management, internal conflicts often break out, and each conflict is heavy. And Virginie became the leader of the aristocratic regime. Her combat power, too strong. After surviving the difficult period of taking 2 children to the mountains and forests, surviving and growing, the noble army quickly captured and killed all the slaves near her family, and she also joined the official noble army. Time came to the 8th year. Virginie's combat power reached its peak, and she found a way to reach the land of order. That is, through the challenge of the Court of Judgment. Just when she was challenging, she received bad news. The orc slave army from the south attacked her hometown and broke into her hiding place, causing the death of thousands of people, including many children. Alan and Anna had just turned 18 and had just entered the godforsaken game. They were also robbed by orc slaves and died tragically in their hiding place. So, Virginie was furious. She even gave up the test of the Court of Judgment and went to the continent where the orc regime was located alone. That night, countless moonlight fell from the sky. The city was like a waterfall of moonlight. Children, adults, as long as they stopped Virginie, she didn't let them go. Tens of thousands of orc children and tens of thousands of orc warriors who resisted all died under the moonlight blades. Revenge. Avenged? But her behavior was criticized by many people, even the nobles. Too cruel. Killed tens of thousands of children. They all felt that every wrong has its perpetrator. So how could killing someone's child be considered revenge? Especially, there was already a strong man in Jiaoyang civilization who had arrived at the land of order at that time. The other party was an old man in the noble camp named Ulu Bobo, who felt that Virginie's behavior was extremely cruel and unbearable. This old man was also one of the few people in Jiaoyang civilization who was stronger than Virginie. When Ulu Bobo defeated and suppressed Virginie, he directly announced that Virginie had lost her humanity and would be exiled forever. At that time, many players in Jiaoyang civilization did not know the truth. They did not know why Virginie was exiled, and why she was not killed directly. Even Virginie now did not understand. She thought that the old man wanted to save her life, but Qin Feng knew. The old man was the only strong man in Jiaoyang civilization who reached the land of order at that time. He was also the only one who knew that Jiaoyang civilization would start the fusion of reality and games next year. If the fusion fails, everything will start over. If Virginie is not exiled, then Virginie and her son and daughter will be resurrected. Only by exiling her can this devil-like woman disappear from Jiaoyang civilization forever. Fuck. Qin Feng was shocked by this series of memories. Xin Feng could not comment on Virginie's behavior because he had not experienced those things she had experienced. But the old man Ulu Bobo was really outrageous. He knew that if the fusion failed, everything would start over again. He still exiled Virginie. In that case, if the fusion of Jiaoyang civilization failed and everything started over again, Virginie would no longer exist in Jiaoyang civilization. In people's memory, she would probably be killed in the slave riot. How can her children, Alan and Anna, 2 10-year-old children, survive in the wild forest. Besides, they can't enter the godforsaken game. Before the noble army arrived, they might have been found by the slaves. What would be the end? Qinfeng couldn't think of the reason why Ulubobo did this. Perhaps Ulubobo treated Virginie in this way in order to allow the noble camp and the slave camp to unite when the game merged with reality. Or perhaps many of those who arrived in the Land of Order from Zhaoyang civilization were from the slave camp and even had a strong presence, which made Ulubobo make such a decision, which was more conducive to his own development. However, judging from the current situation, as long as you reach the Land of Order, you have the power to exile others. Exile Vikri's Moondance. Exile Diyarbad's father. Exile Virginie's old man Ulubobo. They are all beings who have reached the Land of Order. Then the question is, Virginie doesn't know about the reincarnation of civilizations yet. After all, she was exiled before the reality of Zhaoyang civilization merged with the game, and she didn't successfully reach the Land of Order. So she didn't know the truth about the reincarnation of civilizations. This matter. Should I tell her or not? Qinfeng did not rush to draw a conclusion. Instead, he analyzed the pros and cons based on the memory of Virginie that he had just checked. If Virginie is to be released, the truth about the reincarnation of civilization must be told to her. Only by giving her hope can the risk of her messing around after she gets out be reduced. Release the NPC, even for Qinfeng. This is an extremely serious matter, because once the NPC who has been judged is released from the place of judgment, then she is no longer an NPC. All the behavior restrictions that the godforsaken game originally imposed on her will no longer exist. In other words, she can act at will, release skills at will, and kill people at will. This is a risk that Qinfeng has to consider. From Qinfeng's perspective, there are two benefits to releasing Virginie. The first point, with Virginie's strength, she is a crushing force on the current blue star. In Qinfeng's clear feeling, even a legendary boss can't do anything to her. After all, before she was exiled, she had already killed many mythical bosses. Although it is not a single kill, it will not be a big problem to face a legendary boss alone. If such a powerful NPC cooperates with Qinfeng, he can do a lot of things. Although there are ghosts, the ghosts are good at assassination and chasing murderers. That girl's personality is a bit socially anxious, and some things are not convenient to do. The second point, after communicating with Ashasi last time, Qinfeng learned a lot of functions of the Judgment Land. You can consume divinity and release the life units being judged if the target is an NPC. You can also consume a small amount of divinity to retain some of its special abilities in the godforsaken game. For example, Virginie's main function of the Tower of Divine Power. She can continue to manufacture the Book of Divine Grant at low cost and in unlimited quantities. Since this aspect does not need to be changed, only copy and paste is needed. So it does not need to consume too much divinity. This ability can produce divine books at an ultra low cost of 10 days. Although there are only 9 types, they are enough to meet the survival needs of mankind. Compared to the various channels for obtaining divine books in the game, the average price of a divine book is at least 500 days. This means that everyone in Daxia can be popularized with divine books. Of course, Qinfeng can't really let Virginie sell it at the cost price of 10 days. At least 20 days, and the extra 10 days of life profit belongs to Qinfeng himself. At present, Daxia's survival rate should be one of the highest in the world. More than half of the people in some countries have died, but Daxia's survival rate should be around 70%, even if only 1/10 of the remaining 800 million or 900 million people need to buy Divine Book. That's more than 80 million people. And the Divine Books necessary for survival are food and drinking water. That's 160 million books. And the profit of 10 days of life per book, my total income is 4 million years of life. What a terrifying number. Of course, even if Virginie is made to work like a cow and a horse every day, making divine books all the time, the number of divine books that can be made every day is only 200,000 or 300,000, which is already not as efficient as her. Assuming 200,000 books a day, my net profit is also 4 Yozen years of life. You know, Qinfeng spent so much effort before cooperating with the Shocking Clown to turn all Los Angeles chickens into a pig farm, and the daily income is only 5,000 years of life. And this is absolutely beneficial to the people. It can save the whole of Daxia, countless tens of thousands of years of life expenses in the future in terms of divine book. However, if there is such a large demand, so many divine books will be enough for Virginie to produce for 2 or 3 years without stopping. Ahem. These two benefits are quite important to Qinfeng, but the key is to control the risk. Otherwise, releasing the NPC will do more harm than good. Qinfeng has 3 ways to control risks. First, anyone released from the Judgment Land will be marked by the Judgment Land. Qinfeng can check their behavior at any time, and can also take them back to the Judgment Land at any time. It's a bit like Qin Xiaoyu before, but it's different. However, the divinity consumed to release people is equal to the divinity required to judge them. For example, Virginie, the judgment requires 1355 divinity points, so to release her, the same amount of divinity is required if there is no confirmation of cooperation. then it's okay. There is no need to let her go and waste her divinity. The second is Virginie's weakness. That is, her children, Alan and Anna. Tell her the truth and let her have hope. If Jiaoyang's civilization has not yet sublimated, then in the future, I may be able to help her return to Jiaoyang's civilization and find a way to rescue her children. I just don't know how many reincarnations have passed since she was exiled. Hainfeng had no way of knowing for sure. Maybe she was exiled in the last reincarnation. Maybe she has been exiled for hundreds or thousands of reincarnations. Everything is possible. The third point is the character of the Moon Queen that Qinfeng learned from Virginie's memory. In fact, Virginie was originally a gentle woman. Before the slave riot destroyed her life, her family also raised a lot of slaves. She was quite good to those slaves, with a gentle attitude and not harsh at all. Even after that, while she raised 2 children, she was developing the God-forsaken game. She didn't target the slave camp, because the slaves who rioted and killed her family had been dealt with by the noble army. She didn't hate all the slaves because of this. If her child hadn't died in the hands of slaves, she wouldn't have hated the slave camp that much. Even after being exiled to Blue Star, she didn't transfer her hatred to the players of Blue Star, but treated the young people of Blue Star as her own children, and even gave away the divine book at a loss, which eventually led to her own death. All of this was witnessed by Qinfeng himself. He could feel, I feel the tenderness of this mother. Such a gentle mother should not kill people indiscriminately on Blue Star, right? Of course, even with these 3 insurances, Qinfeng still won't be completely relieved. Therefore, even if he cooperates with her, Qinfeng will not send her back to reality directly, but plans to send her back to the game world first and let her make the Book of God. In the game world, her threat to others will be minimized. When the time is right, consider other things. The pros and cons analysis is complete. Hainfeng is still looking forward to reaching a cooperation with Virginie. Then the next step is to negotiate with her. Qinfeng glanced at the system prompt. You have consumed 1355 points of divinity. Judgment completed. The basic attribute of the Blade of Judgment has increased by 34%. The divinity limit of the Blade of Judgment has increased by 34 points. Do you want to observe the illusion of the target of the judgment? The divinity limit of the Blade of Judgment has reached 268 points, which is getting closer and closer to the 300 points required for the judgment of Qin Xiaoyu. Only 1 or 2 more NPCs need to be judged to meet the requirements. Do not observe the illusion of the target. Consume 135 divinity and cancel the punishment for Virginie. Qinfeng looked into the dark area. The punishment was cancelled for Virginie, and her consciousness returned to her body. In the dark area, she was wearing a pure and flawless moon-white robe. Her hands were hanging weakly at her waist, and she was in a coma. Qinfeng snapped his fingers. He sent her from the dark area to the sky above the White Jade Labyrinth. Then he woke her up from the darkness. When the Moon Queen woke up, she was shocked to find that everything about her seemed to be controlled by an extremely noble and sacred existence.